we're in a phase right now. I've been talking about this a lot. We have done 100 years of technology from 1900 to 2000. And from 2000 to 2024, we've done the same amount of 100 years of technology, basically in those 24 years. And exponentially, the information and things are happening so quickly that literally in the next 7 to 10 years, it's going to be like going through the 1900s to 2000.
Welcome. This is Unfolding, the show where I unfold creative business minds. My name is Marko Pfann, and now I just want you to sit back and enjoy the show.
So welcome. We're back, and today I actually need a paper to introduce this person. It's Ian Dawson, and the reason why I need a paper because he has a very impressive portfolio. First of all, Ian is in broadcast design, and he did a lot of title sequences. He basically lived my dream job. He had my dream job. I should have called him back in the days. And Ian did some work on amazing movies like the Iron Man trilogy, Mission Impossible, Sherlock Holmes. He launched a bunch of networks around the globe, and I think at some point we must have met each other. And he also worked with Carl Cooper, and what I find personally very impressive, he's a 9-time Emmy Award winner. So welcome, Ian. Thanks, Ian Dawson. Thanks for
Thank you for having me, Marko.
So tell me a little bit, how did you get into the game? Just briefly, how did you get the job?
Yeah, I always wanted to do computer graphics. My uncle owned a pre-press print for movie posters place, so that's kind of where I was on the weekends and you know, kind of in college and whatnot as a job. So I got to be around computers and that type of stuff. But I always wanted to do computer graphics, motion graphics, and I was in a night class at Cal State Northridge here in LA, and there was a gentleman who was the technical director of Entertainment Tonight at Paramount, and I told him what I wanted to do, and he hooked me up with John Ridgway, who was the owner of Novacom at the time, and I thought I was going to be an intern, and first day I got there, I got a job. So I was going to school and working basically at the same time. So it was great.
Different times, I guess. So what was your first kind of big thing that you did in the industry?
I think the biggest thing, I mean, the first job that I ever worked on was a 120 pass motion control project for Disney's 35 Years of Magic logo. And it was all shot basically on a film camera with multiple layers, kind of like how Star Wars was done and whatnot. But the big, graphics package that I first did was really the relaunch of Entertainment Tonight for its 10-year anniversary. That was like a big, lots of deliverables, huge package. And we were trying to do some stuff that really had never been done before, which was rolling 3D graphics off of tape, in real time. And keying that and putting it, over the shoulder and that type of thing. So it was fun.
So the reason why I wanted to talk to you today, Ian, is because you have a vision about the future of our industry. And in the pre-call, you talked about the new market. So we are all in the world of AI now. And do you have an idea on how that could evolve? And I really think that the audience needs to hear this because this is a very positive idea and a vision you have. Tell us more.
Well, having worked on Iron Man, we were kind of Danny Yount and Paul Mitchell and Ilya Volkanov were the three creative directors that really came up with the look and the feel and the ideas of, what might this future look like. And, after that movie came out, the Iron Man, especially Iron Man 2, we got a lot of calls about doing work in that space for real life. And I realized, you know what, there's a market here in the AR world to take the designers and animators and people that are doing MoGraph and visual effects work and apply them to kind of a new space, which is creating, graphical overlays and graphical software in, for HoloLens and Magic Leap. And, now it's, Apple Vision Pro, and, there will be others in the future. But, the fact that, there's a need for these same artists and practitioners in that field, also working with programmers. And really, there's going to be, and there is a need for creating, software that has a visual aesthetic to it, for augmented reality. So these are, software packages, as well as, Web3 and metaverse spaces that we have that are, communities. All of these things are going to require design, animation, environments, all of these kinds of things that we do in the MoGraph and visual effects world that are going to have to be, applied to the VR and AR spaces. So this is happening already. And so I don't see, there's, much more competition in the MoGraph space and in the visual effects space. But these same skills are also needed in, general enterprise software creation, in AR and VR, and then eventually consumer products. So, consumer software.
So there's a shift from let's just say classic film VFX production, MoGraph stuff into. So what I heard is that it's getting out of the entertainment industry and then going into more in the commercial world, in the B2B world. Is that what you're saying?
Well, right now it is, but it will also be entertainment. It will also be, community. It will also be all of these different things.
So
who's going to build it? Who's going to design that world? Who's going to, create, the CG items that are going to need to be created in that world? Who's, it's all of the people who, have been doing entertainment. It's all of us artists and producers and whatnot. We're just going to have to work close with programmers to be able to, create the actual software products.
I like that.
So instead of a programmer maybe, writing some code to be able to render something, you're going to be working with programmers who are going to be doing, the ability to move things around in your space or do other things. So
I like that version, like actually being there, working with programmers on software and other applications that we probably don't know yet what that would look like, especially about the metaverse or the Apple Vision Pros and things like that. I want to quickly reframe the thought is you have been through, like I too, but you even more so, and you were even more closer to the VFX industry, but you have gone through different shifts in the industry, right? We have both been in the shift from, what was that, like analog to digital films, and .com, the .com boom, things like that. And you were able to thrive throughout all those shifts and actually market crashes, right? It's like the market, every time people thought they crashed, but then it came back a lot better. So what's on a soft skill level, what do you think people need these days to sustain and to thrive, not only sustain but thrive in the creative industry?
Well, I mean, nothing replaces just being a good human and being able to interact with people and be sensitive to their needs, but also, you have to be a responsible person and be responsible for a project, a company, whatever your position is. And so, you just have to be an adult, and you have to be a good person. So,
I have to deal a lot with my clients. And tell me, I want to get into this responsibility thing because I really think this is something people need to hear without knowing what you're going to say, but I have an idea.
yeah.
Tell me more about that responsibility thing and being an adult.
Well, I think it just, I was brought up where you do the right thing. You treat, let's say you're working for a company and an owner, you consider it as if it was your company. How would you want your employee to work and do things? And that's the way you have to approach, the job. You have to approach it as if this was my company. How would I want my employees to act? And, how would I want them to be responsible, and how would I want them to respond to other people, and so on and so forth. So I think that's just, I know that sounds really simple, but you'd be surprised, right? Sometimes it's just not the case. But I think that's one of the the baseline things is just be a good human. But I think just learning as much as you can about, we're in a phase right now. I've been talking about this a lot, and I'm sorry if I'm going on a tangent, but we have done 100 years of technology from 1900 to 2000, and from 2000 to 2024, we've done the same amount of 100 years of technology, basically in those 24 years, and exponentially, the information is. And things are happening so quickly that literally in the next 7 to 10 years, it's going to be like going through, the 1900s to 2000. So it's impossible to keep up with everything. I used to try to keep up with everything, and now it's just really impossible. You sort of have to pick and choose some areas that are of interest to you. And I think I've been lucky to kind of go through the experience of, like you said, these changes. So from analog to digital was one. And then I would say from, the high-end, really expensive equipment like Quantels and SGI equipment that's dedicated to hardware to desktop hardware. And software. That was an entirely next revolution of
True.
Our business. And then, now I think the revolution is, these different technologies coming together to create new businesses. So the interaction of augmented reality and AI coming together is creating another business, or new business opportunities. And if you looked at Iron Man, Jarvis was basically, an AI, and although they're not holograms, they're AR representations of, graphical interfaces that we can see through a HoloLens or an Apple, Vision Pro or whatever that will come down the line. The integration of those two technologies is really going to revolutionize everything. And, that there's a place for 3D animators and designers and all of that in those new markets.
So there's a lot to unpack what you just.
Yes, there is a lot to unpack. I'm in a lot of direction.
So we start off with the responsibility and like thinking about this, like the company is your company. I love this, and this is like, but you have been an employee, right? It's like, but and this is something I've seen over the decades as well. As like the people that really thrive in the industry, they have this. It's almost like entrepreneurial mindset that you have, right? You're an employee, but you take responsibility not only for the part of the project you're in, but also how this fits into the bigger picture. And you also have the work mentality, right? How would you want your employees to work?
Exactly.
Things like that. And how would you want your employees to be treated, and how would you want them to treat others, and things like that. So I think this is, on a soft skill level, something that's lacking in these days. I'm not sure why. Do you know why?
I don't know. I think maybe some of the immediacy of things. I don't know. I taught UCLA Extension for a little bit, and there's a need for immediate satisfaction, and not actually like going through the steps and the processes. Like, even when I told people would ask me, like, how do you get into this business? It seems to be catch-22, if you don't have the experience, nobody's going to hire you, but how do you get the experience and whatever? And I would tell them, you really need to, you need to do what you do in college, which is you learn how to do research. So research is 10 times easier these days than like when I went to college. We have the internet and everything, but research is really, really important. And finding, what you like to do, what industry you like, and then there's many, many jobs that you probably don't realize in that particular industry. So finding, which area you think you would thrive in within that industry is important. And then finding who does what you like the best, finding that company or that person that does the thing that you gravitate towards the most, and then just, work for them if you need to for free, and eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And within 3 months, you will become, they won't want to let you go. You will become a crucial part of their company, whatever that is. And, they'll offer you a job, because it's much harder to train somebody new. And if you make yourself invaluable to somebody in the company, they're not going to want to get rid of you. So that's what I tell people all the time. That's how you get experience. That's how you develop relationships with people. Now, if you can get paid right away, fantastic. That's even more bonus. But finding the thing and the place that you really want to work at and researching that is a really, important thing about
you're making a great point. I never thought like that, but it's like kind of like, this is like the entry fee, right? You have to prove not that you're skilled, because at that level, when you come out of college or university or whatever design school, we all know this, you don't have anything to contribute other than actually your work ethic, and then showing people that you want to learn it. And then I've been there too. I've ate peanut what's that, like peanut butter and jelly sandwich. My worst. But it's like I didn't get any money in the first actually couple of months, and then I got like an internship salary, which was nothing. But I kept working. I did more over hours than anyone in the company, and that's how people actually trusted me with the next step. And then I got a job, and I finally was leading big TV channel brandings and things like that. And that actually in a matter of only a few years. But You're so right. In the beginning, there's nothing else. You have to bring then your work ethic. And I know work-life balance is a big thing these days, and equal payment and things like that. Yes, but honestly, and I believe this is true actually, if you want to get ahead, this is where you can actually, this is the network.
Well, you have to have a passion for something, right? And
right? It's like,
and if you have a passion for doing this, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The hours don't matter. You're learning. You're a sponge. You're trying to get all the information you can, and it's not about necessarily at that moment. Yeah, you got to make money. You got to live. You got to do all those things, but it's about your passion and what you're what you're interested in and what you want to
Being an
do.
artist, really, right? In the beginning, it's like when you are there, it's like you yes. And I actually had a side shop when I started out in the industry. I couldn't afford to live on nothing, so I had a side shop going on. And but it's that passion that you just said, that actually people are, how do I put this? Um, so it's what I've seen in the industry a lot is like people are more entitled. They believe just because they went to college or university, they should get a job with a decent payment. And honestly, it wasn't back in the days. It wasn't like that. I got out of university. I didn't get a salary. I actually had to start from scratch, from zero, and work my way up there. And
I
I
mean,
think,
look, if you work for somebody for 3 months, 6 months, and they're not responding to you, you move on.
yeah, you move
But if you're really, you should be making an impact in 3 to 6 months
yeah.
in terms of just whatever it is, right? You're staying late. You're the first one there. Whatever it is, you're making yourself noticed and noticeable. And
You developed relationships, right? And you make
yeah,
friends and with the upper people and with the higher people and with the creative directors, things like that. So
yeah.
I think
Anyways,
that's something people really want to think about, because there is still like, this is a one way to differentiate yourself. Be the
yeah, and I think, like you said, people come out of college and they think they automatically deserve a job and whatever. And I understand. Look, I understand people need to get paid, and I'm not saying people shouldn't get paid, but look, if you really want to do something and you want to work with the best people, you have to avail yourself to make yourself available to be in that environment,
low
and that
risk.
could mean not getting paid for a little bit to get that experience, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I want to unpack something else you said earlier.
What?
And this is like, um, what I really like is like you said, like you try to keep up with all the changes with development, and I did the same. Like back in the day, I watched all the Andrew Kramer tutorials. These days, there, and that was all we had back in the days, right? It was just Andrew and his tutorials.
Yeah.
These days, we have so much more, and it's impossible to keep up. And but what I like what you said is like you have to pick something, like you so is it true that everything becomes more specialized, and it's like it's not like we have to compete with everything, but we're gonna pick, it becomes more and more specialized, and that's how we can thrive? Is that what you're saying?
Look, I think you can thrive being a generalist or a specialist, to be really honest. I think there's a need for both. Um, you know, I don't want to classify as one being more important than the other. It really depends on the size of a job too. If you have a smaller job, a generalist is probably got a smaller budget, and generalist is going to be a better situation if the project can dictate that. If it's a larger job and more moving parts, it might make more sense to divide up the tasks and have people focus on the things that are important, that they specialize in.
So if you want to get into a big company like, I don't know, Paramount or something like that, makes sense to specialize, right? To be really good at something.
I mean, yeah, I think. Look, I've been telling a lot of people, if you're a 3D artist or you're an After Effects artist or whatever, I've been telling a lot of the artists that they should have been learning Unreal and Unity if they can, but Unreal for sure, because it opens up a number of different markets for you. Besides, Unreal kind of bleeding into the visual effects side of things for TV and film, you also have the other way, which is, it's for games.
Yes.
And it's also being used in AR and VR. So being able to do, things in that program open up multiple worlds for you. If you know Maya and Substance and, Houdini and Unreal, and you really have those 4 packages sort of down, the sky's the limit for you right at the moment. And it's not necessarily in visual effects, traditional entertainment visual effects.
That's
so.
That's a good point. As a VFX artist, these days you can work for corporate companies. You can work in different areas that weren't available earlier.
I mean, look, like I said, I was up at Microsoft and I saw, Video Copilot and the HoloLens working together, a la Jarvis, but without, the holograms. The holograms were in the headset. You need a digital double of the product you're working with.
Oh.
You need a 3D model. You need it to be textured. You need all the parts broken out. You need to show how those parts get used, so on and so forth. All of that is still something that, a modeler and texture artist needs to build. If there's a user interface that then, you are interacting with in that headset, that's also a 2D/3D designer that's going to have to do that and animate those in 3D space, and give that to the programmer so that they have those sprites or those little animations or those pieces to be able to integrate into the code. These are all things that we're used to doing, but we're doing them and rendering them out and saying, okay, here's a final product. In our case, we're delivering elements for somebody else to basically program together and make work in a piece of software.
So, I mean, I know you have a talk coming up, right? And that talk is that about AI and AR? Is that what you?
Yeah, I'm speaking at Augmented World Expo, which is in Long Beach next week, middle of June. And it's, I've done a couple of talks there about, Iron Man and the AR graphics and that type of stuff. I'm doing it again, but I'm trying to now relate it to the things that are going on in, the real world right now in terms of, like, again, Microsoft, showing Copilot and the HoloLens working together. The fact that Apple is now talking about whether they're going to integrate Gemini from Google, their AI, into, Apple products, including the, Vision Pro. Meta is doing the same thing too with Google and deciding and whether they're going to do their own or work with Google as well. So these people that are traditional computing companies are all into headsets, and they're all trying to integrate computer systems with machine learning, which will eventually all be transferred to headsets. Because our computers, we won't have desktop computers necessarily. We won't have phones. We're going to have glasses that are going to be our computers, and screens are going to be as big as we want them to be. And, storage will be in the cloud and processing will be in the cloud or on your phone. That'll be Bluetooth to your headset, or Wi-Fi to your headset. All of these things we're going to see in the next 10 years, which will eventually make that a usable consumer product versus, the B2B kind of enterprise that it is now. So the Apple Vision Pro, although Apple would have loved it to be a consumer product for $3,500 and $4,000 with tax and a extra battery pack, it's really a developer's tool right now. It's to get the Apple developer community, involved, get their feet wet, and do that. And eventually that will turn into more consumer level products. But Apple's got to support the developer, the developer world. They can't just be there with their hand out, hoping they're going to get 30% off of all the apps. They've actually got to create the community. They have to take some of that cash that they have and they have to invest in the applications and the developers to do it, because since there is no consumer market for it yet, it has to be a reason for developers to want to be involved, right? And to do that, even though they may not sell as many units because there aren't enough units to stick it on, Apple has to basically fund that and fund that development. And hopefully they're figuring that out, because it's
that's totally. I never thought about that, but Apple, it's not a consumer product. Apple actually develops a new market, and then what you just said, like, is this is going to be the next big thing, right? The next shift will be from desktop to headsets.
That's correct.
It makes total sense. Like like it's not a consumer market yet, and they want to own that market. They develop the market. That makes total sense.
Let's put it this way, Marco. Somebody right now, I would love it to be me, but somebody right now is sitting and making, a version of Minority Report as an editing system. Okay, that's just one product where I can literally see in front of me all my clips, right? I don't have any computer screen. It's just projected in front of me. And I have all my reels, and I have all these clips that are just hanging out in space, right? And I can literally go and edit. I can chop this piece, lift it up, take this piece, slide it over, chop it, pull that out, mix the two together. Bam, I've just made an edit.
Okay? Amazing. I want that.
It's not unfathomable. It is capable of being done right now. Wow. These are just the types of things that, we can create now. And eventually they will become, those are products that are B2B right now, but eventually could be B2C.
So that's the future, like really, like Minority Report. When did that movie come out? That was like early 2000s?
Yeah.
So 20 years later.
Iron Man is 14 years later right now. Iron Man 2. Iron Man 1 was 2008. So that's 16 years, right? So, yeah, that's the future.
And I really like that. The idea of like just the flow you can get into as a creative if you don't have the limitations of the software anymore. I can't wait to see the products that come out, the movies that come out. Much more
also collaborative, right? Because people are virtual with you, so you could literally collaborate with others.
Yeah, and it's much like that will be a different way of storytelling in the end.
That is for sure.
Change. Let's talk about that. How do you predict storytelling to change in the future with all that new possibilities?
Well, I think storytelling, generally, in storytelling, you have to have a good story and it has to be written well. So that's the first thing that will never change.
Good.
How you're presenting your story on what screen or what, methodology, I think will change. I think you could be walking through a story.
Oh.
You don't have to be having the story presented in front of you on a flat plane. Your world, it can be a story. A story can be told within a space, whether it be virtual or a real space. You can have locations that you go to where a story is set up and you can walk through the story. Let's say it's in a park or whatever it is. And,
I like that. So I could go to, I don't know, some sites, and I could go to the Eiffel Tower and there's a story playing out that you can only watch when you're at the Eiffel Tower.
That is correct.
That's amazing. That's a new product right there. That's cool. How cool would that be? And then you have like whole trips, the whole industry it's going to change into a travel industry because you want to watch that movie that's happening at.
Well, I mean, you could also make it virtual. So for those people that can't travel, they can see it if they go to that location, on a map, on a 3D world, that's literally placed in front of you, and you're rotating it. And okay, I want to go to Paris, and
Just imagine you're in there, you're in Paris, and you walk
yeah.
the streets, and that's going to be an interesting future, bumping into a lot of people that watch movies on the street.
Well, or virtually, as if they were there,
Yeah,
right?
they were there. I really like this. This is amazing. Like,
So people have to think a little bit differently. I mean, I understand AI is scary, and this whole thing of it's going to take over our lives. And look, I'm a photographer as a hobby, and I don't want my images, scraped and then used to create other images without me getting compensation. There's definitely things about AI that I don't like, but I don't think we should be scared of it in that way. I think we need to find uses for it that help our lives. As one person said, like, I don't want my job replaced by AI. I want my dinner made for me, and the things that
my laundry
make my life easier in life. That's what I need AI for. I don't need it to replace what I do. And I don't think necessarily, I think it could, but I don't think it necessarily will.
I mean, in the end, we decide what we're going to use it for. And if you want to use it for replacing the things we love doing, then it's kind of our own fault, isn't it? Like, but on the other hand, it's like, and I see this with my wife, she's also in broadcast design, but she picked up AI pretty quickly now, and she's doing amazing stuff with that. And it's I see her like evolving at a rapid speed with AI, and
let's put it this way. If you can put together, 50 images in a few hours to try to get an idea from a client of what direction they like, narrow it down, that just saved you a week's worth of work, right? I mean,
and the thing what people think is now, when you say that, it's like, okay, so I just lost a salary for worth a week, but it's not that, right? You're just gonna get the whole project to another level, a whole different level.
Yeah, a whole different level, a lot quicker, which doesn't necessarily mean you're going to charge less to actually produce the work. It just means you got to the point where I've got a client that made a decision on something and gave me a direction, and he did that by showing them a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Which normally I would need, 4 people to sit for 5 days and do designs on. I can be one person and get a bunch of that in front of a client and know what direction I need to do to then bring in the proper people to do the work and actually go.
Yeah, the other thing I see is like, and what people totally underestimate is with AI, with AI, we all of a sudden have so many possibilities, like that anything seems possible. So when you start a project, the biggest challenge now is knowing what you want, right? It's not like you cannot just, back in the days, I used to do this a lot. Like, I just did what I knew I could do, where my skill sets were. And now you could do anything. And that's like, I think it's much more crucial to have a strategic vision of where you want your project to go, right?
Well, I think, that was one of the brilliant things about Kyle Cooper. And I think he taught a lot of people who worked at his company, which is, you really have to study a script or the problem. Let's just say the problem, whatever that problem is. And you have to find, that interesting little story or point that helps describe what needs to happen. So if it's for a feature film, and it's the prologue of the film and it's the title sequence at the beginning, what is it that's the little thing that gives you some backstory about what you're going to see, or that brings you to the location that you're going to see in the first shot of the film? Or, what's that little thread and story? And once you have that, or you've created in your mind those few stories, you can then just go and get images that support that story, right? And that becomes your storyboard. That becomes your frame ideas to present.
So it's like
and it can be graphic, or they can be, traditional, live action. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. But you still need that creative thinking of, how am I going to want to tell this story? And here are 4 different ways I might do that. And that's still something that needs to be done. You can't get away from that,
I like this, like Kyle Cooper saying this, like it's kind of that you have to understand the meta concept of the movie or whatever you do. And I heard Tarantino say that as well, like you have to work on the subtext, like on the subtext of the movie. You have to understand the feelings that people have, what do they want, and things like that. And I think and that actually, yeah, that's so true. It's like you have, as an artist, you have to get better on that meta level. You have to become better at it and understanding the bigger story, and then maybe the emotional intention of the whole product, movie, whatever you're working on, right? Like understanding like how this will impact people's lives and things like that. So yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, I think with like metaverse things, where what people call Web 3.0 is communal space that is virtual, that people go to. If you're a brand, your website will become this one day, whether you like it or not.
Oh.
You will be, instead of having a page on the internet, you will have a space in the virtual internet where you will potentially sell product. You will have videos that talk about how socially proper you are, let's say environmental. You might have videos on that. If you have spokespeople, they may come and visit and do a virtual chat or be a avatar within the space. You're creating this community where people who like your product, like what you believe in, like that community will live it, will come to socialize with other like-minded individuals. So I think that that's what the metaverse and the brand and brands coming to those spaces will be, and that will be Web 3.0, and we'll be viewing those through VR headsets and AR headsets, depending on what type of environment it is.
So that metaverse Web 3.0 is that also depends on the development of the headsets, right? So at the moment, metaverse itself, as well, as not a consumer product. It's more like a B2B environment at the moment.
Right. Well, I think you'll first see them within a browser. You're already starting to see, metaverses inside of browsers on, and eventually that will move to a headset.
And then okay, yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, you have some that are doing that already, but in terms of on a wider scale, I think so there's a whole nother business. We're going to have to create metaverses for brands and give them things to do inside, these spaces. And, are you going to be the designer and the people creating those, metaverses for brands?
In the future, it's more like creating spaces, right? It's like storytelling, space telling, or whatever that gonna be. But it's like, what's your space gonna be like?
You're an architect. You're a designer. You're a 3D animator. You're all of these different disciplines come together to create these virtual environments and virtual spaces.
That's exciting.
That we're all gonna, we're gonna have our our real life and we're going to have a virtual life. We sort of have that now. We get on Instagram, we get on, our browsers on our computers. We're living a virtual life. It's just not, it's very flat right now. It's very two-dimensional. And eventually it's going to be fully three-dimensional. And we're going to be inside of it.
Awesome. Ian, I know it's getting late where you are, but I have one more question for you. So
Sure.
what excites you, and maybe like what's a message that we can give to the audience here?
Well, I mean, I have kids and you have kids, right? So I would love to, I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it, all these different new technologies. And I want to have some influence on it, even if it's very minor. But my kids are going to be living it. So anything that I can do that tries to make it for good and not for evil would be great. Maybe good is protecting our kids at some point. I don't know, but I would prefer that, there's love and not war. So I would love to see this technology being used more for, communal love and appreciation and respect of others in the world.
And it's our responsibility to get AI to a place where it's being used for the good, right?
Yes. I mean, look, everything that's ever been created by mankind has been used for good and for evil. We have to instill goodness in people and make it worthwhile for the good to outweigh all of the bad. So sure, are people going to lose jobs? Yes, people are going to lose jobs. Are they, but those that can, transfer their skills to other technologies are going to do just fine. But sure, there will be some businesses where people are going to have to be retrained. Whenever you have mass change in society, it's you're going to have people that are retrained for a new job.
I think we should focus on the exciting future that we just talked about the last half an hour, because this is really,
I agree.
Really stuff that I want to jump into this. I want to have this future right now, and I want to work on those products, and I actually want to get back into visual effects and stuff. All the things you taught me, the vision you have about the future is amazing, and it makes it like, and I think I want people to leave with this idea that it's an exciting future ahead, but it's gonna be different.
Sure.
We want to change, but there are a lot of new possibilities out there. So
absolutely. Look, I think people should not be scared of the future. I think they should go into it wholeheartedly. Yeah. And I think that specifically people in our field, need to be positive about it, because there are so many new opportunities that are going to end up happening for people, that I think it will be a renaissance of that work as well. So.
All right. Thank you, Ian Dawson. I really appreciate you being on my show, and I hope we can do this again sometime, maybe in person next time.
Thank you. I would love that.
We love chatting with you. And anyone that wants to reach out to Ian, where do they find you?
You can go to my website, idgraphics.com, idgrafx.com. You can look up some of the work that I've done, and I think you can contact me from there.
Awesome. Thank you, Ian, and have a good night.
Thank you very much, Marko. Appreciate this very much.
Thanks for tuning in. My name is Marko Pfann, and I hope to see you all again on our next show, where we unfold creative business minds.